Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Hungarian Prime Minister Peter Magyar said on Monday after meeting President Sulyok that if the president does not resign, the government will launch legal proceedings to remove him from office. The remarks come amid a political standoff following Tisa's election victory and renewed efforts to reshape key state institutions. President Sulyok has rejected calls to step down, warning of potential constitutional consequences. The dispute now raises questions about constitutional limits, institutional independence, and democratic stability. We'll analyze it further now with our guest, István Hegedűs, Chairman, Hungarian Europe Society. Welcome back to TVP World. Good to have you.
Good morning. Thanks again.
So this standoff, is this a constitutional crisis? Is this a legitimate reform? And why is it so key now that the Prime Minister is pushing so much for the President to step down?
It is not a constitutional crisis, at least not yet, since the new government has a clear two-thirds majority, what it received at the elections on the 12th of April. Were nationwide. So there is a huge legitimacy for the government even to change the constitution and trying to finish the job what Peter Magyar and his supporters call a regime change. It's not only a change of government. So to change the personnel, the people who lead the institutions might not mean that there is a constitutional crisis or it is not the end of liberal democracy, especially because it was actually Fidesz under Viktor Orbán which undermined liberal democracy. So it's a reconstruction of democratic institutions and personnel in the eyes of the supporters of Tisa. However, if the process takes too long, and the methods will be not soft but too, let's say, brutal, then we might talk about a crisis in a couple of weeks or months. At the moment, it seems to be much more softer, and the new parliament might amend the constitution, and with just one amendment, it might decide to sort of kick out all the old guard which was placed there by Viktor Orbán. They call these people, including Tamás Sulyok, the president of the country, the republic, a puppet. So to get rid of these so-called puppets, it might be a very fast process.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, it's a process indeed, and as you said, there is a supermajority for TISA at the moment. But just tell us, maybe, and for our audience, what the role the president can play. I mean, what in terms of the institutions, would he potentially be in the way of this reform? I mean, there's a lot of reform expected of Hungary right now, and Peter Magyar's new government. So, why is he so much in the crosshairs of the president? Of the Prime Minister.
It's more symbolic in a way to restart liberal democracy with new people. And the argument is maybe much less institutional, but again political, that for this new lecture, for this new period, we need new people. And those who assisted the old government, which we call illiberal populist regime, they cannot continue just simply as nothing would have happened. Some of them were cemented into power for 9-12 years, including the president of the Media Council or the president of the Constitutional Court. According to Magyar, all of these people should leave, and not only because they can block reforms, what you are talking about, because we need a country where you have to take responsibility and accountability what you have done during the Orbán regime. Magyar argues, and many people agree with him, that these people did not protest against illiberal measures or against the scandals, whether these were scandals about pedophilia or attacking Brussels or corruption, which is the #1 issue. So the argument is more political. In fact, the President of the Republic cannot really block decisions just like in Poland. So the system is different, but still it's very important to change the personnel and restart liberal democracy and rule of law.
Mm-hmm. Now, interesting point is when you said that the president cannot stop that law, but let's say these reforms go ahead. What he can do, in my understanding, is he can pass them on then to the Constitutional Court, right, or the Supreme Court, and that is still full, as I understand it correctly, with pro-Orban Fidesz judges. Is that correct?
That's correct, exactly. So this is a scenario what might happen, and that's of course another reason why Péter Magyar and his government want to get rid of these people. The president of the Constitutional Court is a new guy, but there is another one who used to be the president of the Constitutional Court, Péter Polt, who is now the head of the prosecutor's office, and he should leave as well. So it would be a general political sort of change, not a cleansing, but a need to restart democracy. So you're right, they can block political and legal decisions. It would be a constitutional crisis then, later on, or the government would not be able to introduce new reforms, which include, for example, that the so-called integrity authority should have new teeth. This is what the European Commission also wants to see, that the new government fights against corruption. The new government wants to join the European Prosecutor's Office. The new government wants to introduce the euro sooner or later. And if the constitution remains the same, where we have a sentence about the currency of Hungary, which is the forint, theoretically, you're right, these institutions dominated by Fidesz loyalists, Orbánists, might block these decisions. That's the second reason, exactly what you are talking about, to change everything in Hungary now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that August, I think it's August 31st deadline, especially for those funds, the 16.4 billions that have been unlocked, but it's still, I think, reform bound. And interesting you mentioned, just for our viewers also to understand, that one of those Fidesz loyalists still head of the Supreme Court, or rather the Constitutional Court, is Mr. Péter Polt. And his term doesn't expire, as far as I've been told, till 2037. So that would be a long, still Orban reach if it isn't checked, isn't it?
Yes, there were some changes in the last minute exactly for this objective, to cement these people in power, even in case the opposition wins the election, what happened. So it's important to change the situation. And the arguments are more on a moral basis or a symbolic basis, that we cannot continue the same regime, and Hungary should be a country with consequences, because these people, especially the President of the Republic, never had any voice protesting against measures, defending the poor, defending the children, which was a big issue in Hungary. So now with this new elan, the new constitutional majority first might change the personnel. This is the number one issue. And then you're right that the EU funds, which might come back to Hungary, as Magyar elaborates the issue, because there were very successful negotiations between the Commission and the Hungarian government, but there will be some new changes, legal changes, some guarantees, rule of law guarantees in the new parliament to be created. So yes, this process should be accelerated, and Magyar does not need people who might block him.
Yeah, and also just get your sense of also what's going to happen on Tuesday. You have the Rule of Law Commissioner, Mr. McGrath, I believe, arriving in Budapest today on Tuesday. So what do you think in terms of those kind of conversations? What is the European Union's position ultimately going to be in all this?
I think there is a general agreement between the two parties that the reforms and the new measures are needed to recreate the rule of law in Hungary, especially fighting against corruption, or to change the system of the university regime, what we have today with the so-called public foundations, which were totally controlled by the government, by the former government, and the universities and research institutes, the academia in general, should receive autonomy. Now we have new ministries for education, for healthcare, and these new ministers who are technocrats or experts, quite liberal guys actually, not so conservative at all. They all want to introduce these new reforms, including civil society, students in the case of education, parents. So there is a new mood in Hungary, still a honeymoon period, and the Commission and the new government both argue that they work together, not against each other. There is no anymore anti-Brussels rhetoric, no posters on the streets attacking Brussels or foreigners. So it's a new era, and the negotiations might be quite fast and successful.
All right, so thanks for giving us the latest there of Hungary there. That was István Hegedűs, Chairman, Hungarian Europe Society. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.